Hi everyone, and welcome back to Grade 12 Math with Mr. Simons. We make math simple and we get you exam ready. Right, for cubic functions, we're looking at February 2010. Again, a drawing is given, but no equation. Right, so here again, we determined or we're required to find the equation, but now only two x-intercepts is given. There is no third x-intercept. Right, so let's look at the question. So question 11. The graph below represents the functions f and g with f of x equal ax cubed minus cx minus 2. So that equation there. And g of x, the straight line equaling x minus 2. A and minus 1 and 0 are the x-intercepts of f. Right? So 11.1, determine the coordinates of A. So A falls on a straight line, so I can use the straight line to get the coordinates of A. So I'm helping you for when you pause and you attempt to answer the questions. Right, show by calculations that A equal 1 and C equal minus 3. So I assume your teacher has shown you how to you find the equation given two x-intercepts. If you don't, I'll show you in the solution. Determine the coordinates of P, a turning point of F. So there, to get turning point, testing can you find first derivative and make it equal to 0. Answer we get for x, we're going to substitute back in the original equation. Show that the line BC is parallel to the x-axis. So because the x-axis is a horizontal line, that gradient is equal to 0. So we find the gradient between the line P and C. I have to show that P and C also equal 0. Alright, so I'm going to find this gradient equal to that. That means therefore they are parallel. 11.5, find the x-coordinate of the point of inflection of f. So for point of inflection, we're going to find second derivative. Make it equal to 0, solve. Write down the value of k for which f of x equal to k will have only one root. So we're going to look at now how we can shift this graph up or down to ensure that it only touches the graph at one place, the x-axis. Right, so the x cut must only be one place. Write down the values of x for which f prime x less than 0. So for 2 marks, we're going to solve an inequality. So again, pause, write down the questions, attempt as many as possible, and see what you can do and what you can't. Take another color pen, highlight your errors, and from there work on correcting your errors. Right, so 11.1, determine the coordinates of A for 1 mark. So we have the equation of the straight line, x minus 2. A is the x-intercept, so for x-intercept, y equal to 0, right? So y is 0, 0 equal x minus 2. Take 2 over, x equal 2, so A is 2 and 0. Right, now somehow the equation there disappeared, I don't know where to. But the second problem, they want us to find the values of A and C, né? Right, so because we have two x-intercepts and not the third one, you see it's only making contact there and at A. No third one given, we're going to use the equation f of x equal A, x minus x1, x minus x2 squared. The squared is for the x-intercept, that is a x-intercept, but also a stationary point, meaning the graph is turning there. Right, so if I substitute in, there negative 1 would become positive 1. There it would be squared, and A there would become negative 2. So positive 2 would become negative 2. There, so that minus 1 and 0, as you can see, is the x-intercept, but the graph's also turning. So therefore, minus 1 becomes plus 1 all squared. So 1 mark for that factors. Then you see there, this graph makes contact at negative 2 and 0 there, y-intercept. So I use 0 and negative 2 to solve for A. This states that the y is negative 2 while the x is 0. So I have 0 minus the 2, 0 plus 1 squared. So 1 times negative 2 give me negative 2a equal negative 2, a equal 1. So therefore f of x equal 1, x minus 2 times x plus 1 all squared, or x plus 1 times x plus 1. Now I've expanded it like that because whenever we give you squaring a binomial, you'll forget the middle term. right? So there, x times x, x squared, right? 1x plus 1x would give me 2x, and 1 times 1 is 1. Work straight from there. I would say x times x gives me x squared. 1 times 1 would give me 1, but for the middle term that we always forget, that would be x times 1, which gives me 1x. 1x times that 2, then gives me 2x. Right? So don't forget the middle term. Then from there, x times x squared, x cubed. X times 2x gives me 2x squared. X times 1 gives me 1x. Minus 2 times x squared gives me minus 2x squared. Minus 2 times positive 2x gives me minus 4x. Minus 2 times 1 would give me negative 2. That then stays x cubed and negative 2. 2x squared minus 2x squared cancels. 1x minus 4x gives me minus 3x. So 1 mark for A, 1 for C, and there that mark for substitution. Right, let's look at the next question. Alright, so 11.3, determine the coordinates of B, a turning point of F. So you know the equation, x cubed minus 3x minus 2. Right, we find first derivative, 3 times 1 gives me 3, 3 minus 1 gives me 2. 1 times negative 3 gives me negative 3. 1 minus 1, x falls away. First derivative of a constant, 0, right? Make the first derivative equal to 0. 3x squared minus 3, I have two terms. So take out the common factor 3 there. 3x squared divided by 3 gives me x squared. Minus 3 divided by 3 gives me minus 1. X squared minus 1 is difference of two squares, so that becomes x times x. Negative 1 is positive 1 times negative 1. Alright, so that's how we factorize it. So x equal minus 1 or x equal positive 1. There's minus 1, so b is by 1. If I put 1 in the original equation, 1 cubed minus 3 times 1 gives me 3 minus 2 gives me negative 4. So coordinates of b is 1 and negative 4. So there, 1 mark for equating first derivative equal to 0. Another mark for common factor. 1 mark for substituting or getting 1 and 4 as my coordinates for P, the turning point, right? Let's look at the last question here. Now they say 11.4, show that the line, or second last question, show that the line BC is parallel to x-axis for 7 mark, right? So we have the coordinates of B we know as 1 and, or minus 1 and 4, so we need the coordinates of C. C is up, point of intersection, so that's where two graphs meet. The x minus 2 and the x squared minus 3x minus 2. So I'm going to equate the two, and we give you 1 mark for making them equal to each other, because point of contact, they equal to each other. If I take x over, minus 3x minus x become minus 4x. Take negative 2 over, negative 2 plus 2 becomes 0. So 0 equal x cubed minus 4x, standard form. Between the two, I can take out the common factor x. X cubed divided by x gives me x squared. Minus 4x divided by x gives me negative 4. Again, x squared minus 4 is a difference of two squares. So x squared is simply x and x. And negative 4, negative 2, and positive 2. So 1 mark for standard form and 1 mark for factors. So therefore, x equals 0. If I take minus 2 over, it becomes positive 2, so x equal to 2. I take positive 2 over, becomes negative 2. Right, so you can see here, x is 0 at this point here. Right, then x is positive 2. Right, that would be at A. Coordinates of A was 2 and 0, so therefore minus 2 is the one I'm going to use. So minus 2 would give me negative 4. So coordinate of C there is 2 and, or negative 2 and negative 4. And B is 1 and negative 4. Right, so negative 4 minus minus 4. So negative 4 plus 4, which is 0. 1 minus minus 2 gives me 1 plus 2, which is 3. 0 divided by 3 is 0. So I get gradient equal to 0. Right, so if my gradient is 0, that means BC is parallel to my x-axis. because the x-axis also has a gradient of 0. Right, so there, as I said, 1 mark for choosing x equal -2, 1 for getting y -4, 1 for getting the gradient equal to 0, and another mark for conclusions. Right, let's look at the last question for real. So find the x-coordinate of the point of inflection. So when I read point of inflection, we want second derivative. No? So first derivative was 3x squared minus 3. For the second derivative, 2 times 3 gives me 6. 2 minus 1 gives me 1. And -3 is a constant, so that falls away if I find the derivative. So 6x equal to 0, x equal 0. 0 divided by 6 is 0. So 1 mark for equating the second derivative to 0. 1 mark for writing x equal 0. 11.6, write down the value of k, for which fx equal to k will have only one root, for 3 marks. So currently I have -1 and 0, and I have a, there's 2 roots. I have to rearrange this so it forms 1 root. So the equation f of x is x cubed minus 3x minus 2, that equal k. If I take k over, it becomes, from positive k, it becomes negative k. So therefore, to answer this, I'm starting from negative k. So to ensure that I only have one root, I have to take this point B. If I can take it till there and above, that means the graph will intersect there, but it turns before there, so it doesn't make contact. So therefore, if I take that up from -4 to get to 0 is 4 units. So therefore, I'm going 4 units up. So I can say minus k greater than 4. So because I'm going up, greater than, and 4 to get to you think greater than 4. Negative, or 4 divided by -1 gives me -4, but then the inequality sign changes and k becomes less than -4. Yeah, I need to move this point down so that the graph goes there, don't make contact, and only goes through the point A when it goes up. So there the y value is 0, so if I move less than 0 down to get to -1, -2, etc., I would say negative k less than 0, but if I divide by a negative, the inequality sign changes and it becomes greater than 0. So k less than -4 or k greater than 0. So 2 mark for the answers and 1 mark for the word O. That is where my 3 marks come. 11.7, write down the values of x for which f prime x is less than 0. So testing inequality. So f prime x was 3x squared minus 3 less than 0. Take out the common factor 3 and I was left with x squared minus 1. If I factorize, I have x minus 1, x plus 1. So what value must I put in here to get to 0? 1. And the second bracket, minus 1 plus 1 is 0. So therefore minus 1 gives me 0 and 1 gives me 0. Because it's x squared, the graph will always be plus minus plus. It was negative x squared, it will read minus plus minus. But because it's positive x squared, it reads plus minus plus. Less than is this point where it is negative. If I said greater, it would have been positive. But less than, where is it negative? Between -1 and 1. So therefore x less than 1, x greater than -1. So 2 marks for my answer. Right, I hope you enjoyed the lesson. Please like and subscribe. Continue practicing. Go through the problems, do them over and over. Become general knowledge. The values will change, the questions stay the same. God bless. Bye.